There's no directive about that in this memo to the shops. I'll talk about that in a second. They know these are not the same quality parts as OEM parts.
Right.
They know these parts diminish the value of your vehicle. They know this. They know that it will not return your vehicle to pre-loss condition. And yet, here we are.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Airing of Grievances. My name is Eric Reamer. That's Robert Grieve, and it is always our privilege to say hello to you, whether you're here on a Saturday morning at 9:30 a.m. in the Mountain Standard Time, or if you are watching this throughout the week. It's just an honor to have you with us, and we love to hear your comments. We love to have you chat with us live during the premieres.
It's been getting more and more fun every week. We've
really
had so
has.
many great people tuning in and chatting back and forth. Great stuff, folks. It makes our day.
Absolutely. And with that being the case, I want to just say happy Saturday to you.
My dear friend, and my dear friends, thank you for joining us. Appreciate you all so very much.
You betcha. Well, as you know, here on this channel, we are consumer focused, and that is to say that we're interested in the driving public in general, not necessarily. We don't create these videos necessarily for
The industry.
the industry, right?
Mm-hmm.
And yet, the industry picks up tips and bits and bobs from these videos. And quite often we hear back from them that it makes a difference in what they're doing as well.
We're all seeing the same stuff all across the nation.
It's true. And we're going to talk about one of those things that is in the industry today that is affecting you, the consumer, and it's going to affect you probably in a bigger way than even anticipated. Of course, I'm talking about a report. Of course, we report the news. Right?
We don't make the news.
In repairer-driven news, it was reported, and actually all across multiple news outlets, it's been reported that State Farm is making a change to something that they decided 24 years ago. Yeah. And it's definitely going to have an impact. So there, I've teed it up for you.
All right. State Farm memo details significant change to non-OEM crash parts policy.
Okay, I'm going to say, for the sake of those people who are watching, this whole non-OEM crash parts, we're talking aftermarket.
Yeah.
Okay, so just so you know, because when it uses that language, it gets burdensome in some of the things
and
that are in this remote.
Maybe by design. But thanks, Laura Lowry, for another great article.
Yeah.
Appreciate you so much and all the reporting that you do. This episode serves as a reminder that insurance preferred shops work for the insurance company, not you, the consumer, and will cut corners when directed to do so by their insurance partners at your expense.
That's a big thing, and it's why we bang the drum on this all the time.
Yeah, it's a subject that keeps poking its ugly head up. I mean, we're back in the news again because this is, look, this notice that State Farm put out to their select service shops, and I'll read the opening paragraph here.
Yeah.
This is to, their shops that they have contracted with, and if you need a shop to go to, they're going to give you this list, and the people on the list have to play by these rules.
Right.
Because this letter is addressed to them. It'll also be used out in the field, I'm sure. But out in the field, if you're going to a shop that isn't one of the State Farm shops, or any other insurance preferred shop for that matter.
Yes.
Then, maybe the relationship is better between you and the shop, and they're going to look out for you a little bit more. In this particular case, not so much.
Well, and I think it's important, again, for the average driver to understand that when we're talking about insurance preferred shops or partner shops, the phrase that we refer to, and of course we have a playlist of well more than 140 different videos on this, but we use that terminology DRP, which stands for a direct repair partnership or program, and that's what we're talking about. All right.
So a memo from State Farm to its select service repair centers states that beginning October 16th, the carrier will end its years-long suspension on the use of non-OEM crash parts, i.e. aftermarket parts. And we reported on this back December-ish.
Yeah.
We put another video together on this.
I'll put a link to it down at the
And
bottom.
that's when they dipped their toe into getting back into this.
Yes.
But there's a long history with the subject of aftermarket parts and State Farm, which there hasn't been with other insurers. Now, this is most of your off-the-shelf TV advertising, names you're familiar with, all do the same thing. Just happens that in this particular case, State Farm is in the news and we got the directive.
Gotcha.
But looking through the directive, they are going to use, or not they are going to have their shops
Right.
are directed to use aftermarket bumper components. And if that's a rebar, that's a serious issue,
Yeah.
a reinforcement. Lighting components, another safety concern. Radiator supports, tie bars, inner structure, and associated mounting components. Non-factory.
That should
Made by somebody else in another country.
terrify you.
It terrifies me. And then outer sheet metal, plastics, composites, and attaching parts. So the memo doesn't say how State Farm will handle parts that are decertified after they've been put on a vehicle, according to this article. But 2 videos that we did ago, we covered this very subject.
Yeah.
And it would be worth going back and looking at that if you're a consumer, because we take a little deeper dive than what we're going to do here.
Yeah.
But, this says users, and when it says users, that means body shops, and specifically body shops that are part of these DRP programs, including State Farm's.
Yes.
Users can register weekly and or monthly.
Through Kappa.
Yeah, through Kappa. They can register the parts that they buy and put on the vehicle, because they all have a little sticker, and take a picture of the sticker and upload it into Kappa with the RO number, and if anything should go wrong, Kappa will bounce that back and say, hey, there's a problem with this part. Ideally, the shop would call you and say, we need to address this in some manner. Never once in my life have I ever heard of that happening. But
You said the word ideally, and I thought, gosh, I think in the video a couple of weeks ago we mentioned that the odds of that ever being the case are slim and none.
So it goes on to say State Farm provides a promise that customers will be satisfied with the fit, corrosion resistance qualities, and performance of these parts for as long as they own their vehicle. If you confirm an issue with the fit or the performance of these parts, you should notify Kappa of the issue using this link and replace the part appropriately. Again, talking to the shops.
Yes.
From the consumer side of things, you are not the quality control person.
Right.
The shop is.
Sure.
It's not your job to decide if the fit and finish and the corrosion protection and the performance and all of the rest of that, you dropped off your vehicle to be repaired.
And yet, how many
And
times,
trust them.
Yeah, how many times, Rob, have we got vehicles in for a post-repair inspection here, and you discover that the corrosion protection wasn't applied, and the fit or finish are not up to standard. And this, I mean, we're talking not just dozens of times, not just hundreds of times, but thousands of times we've seen these things over the years, over the decades. And this little memo is not going to change that.
No, no. Let me just read a couple other parts of this thing, and you'll put a link to the article, I'm
I
sure,
will.
in the thing. Repair centers that have agreed to State Farm Select Service Agreement must warranty these parts. Interesting. Write estimates that comply with local laws for the use of the parts. Here's the big one, folks. Discuss the use of the parts with the vehicle owner. I can't tell you how many times we've done post-repair inspections, found aftermarket parts, talked to the owner and said, did you know these parts are going on here? And they had no idea.
Right.
They had no idea. And State Farm markets a select service vehicle repair program, repair centers, as a time-saving decision for policyholders. So here's your benefit for going to one of their shops. It's a time saving. I have in quotes here, you can choose any shop you like to repair your vehicle's damage. That is true. State Farm's website states, but if you go with a shop that's in the State Farm Select Service Network, you can save time and effort, while they save money
Right.
at your expense.
Yeah, and it's an assumption that you can save time and effort. It's not always accurate. I mean, I was talking to the owner of a body shop up in Fort Collins this week, and he said he's got wide open appointments available, and yet he's not on this plan.
Right.
He could probably turn the car around as fast or faster than,
For sure he could.
than these DRP shops. So careful, little ears, what you hear.
Yeah. So, and the reason I say there's a long history with these parts and State Farm is because there was a bunch of litigation back in 16 and 12 and, innuendo maybe about judges maybe being influenced, let's say.
Well, let's just say there was a class action lawsuit that made that case and ended up being settled for $250 million. But wow,
Yeah. Lots of interesting stuff going on.
State Farm's
Again,
nose
this,
is not necessarily clean.
No. So they know a lot about all this and yet have decided to go back in this direction. So I'm not sure what changed between then and now, but it's not a change for the good. Your policy premiums aren't going to go down,
Right.
and you're going to get a cheaper repair that will diminish your vehicle. So let's talk a little bit about this. State Farm is a leader in the property and casualty business. As a leader, they should lead, I believe. They, as well as the other insurers, and this is not specific to State Farm, but State Farm's a leader in this arena.
They're the biggest dog
Yep.
in the property and casualty.
State Farm, as well as the other insurance companies out there that are pushing the use of these parts, they know these parts potentially will become decertified. They know this. There's no directive about that in this memo to the shops. I'll talk about that in a second. They know these are not the same quality parts as OEM parts.
Right.
They know these parts diminish the value of your vehicle. They know this. They know that it will not return your vehicle to pre-loss condition. And yet, here we are. Well, I read the notice, the actual notice that went to the State Farm Select Service shops, and nowhere did it talk in there about the shop being required to track the use of these parts and then inform a guest if there is an issue.
Right.
And I've done a little bit more research on the CAPA website, And so far this year, we've had 12 of these notices put up on the site. This is one step worse than a part being decertified. So when it was put on your car, it was certified.
Yep.
At some other later point, it becomes decertified. It should be addressed. That ain't ever going to happen. Trust me. The next step in severity, if you will, is Kappa and Intertech put out these public service notices that nobody ever sees.
Public safety
Notices that nobody ever sees. And this year, there were 9 or 10, all covering the same type of part for the same type of car. Honda Civics.
Okay.
All different years, makes, models, all over the board. So one of the things they say, they call out the potential hazard. Parts may exhibit a separation of the metal surrounding a mounting hole near the hood latch mounting area, which could affect the proper function of the hood latch. What exactly that means, I don't know, but it could be incredibly serious.
Separation of metal.
Yes. Yes. And the model years that were covered were anywhere from 16 to 2021.
Okay.
So in here, they talk about the number of units that are affected, the number of parts. So I went into each one of these and added up the amount.
Right.
And it looks to me like there's a little over 12,000 of these not only decertified, but potentially dangerous parts that are already out there.
And nobody's telling anyone.
Welded into people's vehicles, airbag sensors attached to them. This is not what's best for you, the consumer. It not only diminishes the value of your car, but it could put your safety at risk and the safety of your passengers.
Absolutely.
So this is a big subject for me. It always has been. If the leader in the property and casualty arena puts out this message that they are going to go back on what they decided in 1999 and sunset that and now go back into using these aftermarket parts that are Kappa certified.
Right.
And that's a requirement of the shops that they have agreements with, which is not unlike other insurance companies. I believe they have an obligation to lead. And lead, in this particular case, is make sure that the consumer is made aware that they're being used on their car.
Right.
Number one. And number two, be made to follow the Kappa instructions on documenting the use of all these parts in the app so that they can be contacted. That's leadership. That's nowhere in any of these things.
Yeah. Yeah, this is a big issue, Rob. And, you know, we have made our stand quite obvious. We don't use aftermarket parts. We won't use aftermarket parts. There's no reason to use aftermarket parts. Saving a little bit of money at the expense of your safety is not okay. We can't sleep at night.
No, and not to mention your vehicle is worth less.
Right.
Let's just go through that one example we were talking about. My wife Carol had her ring appraised.
Oh, yeah.
It's going to be insured. And let's just say the diamond falls out of it and goes down the drain.
Okay.
The sink.
Yep.
If they can put non-original parts on your car, can they then put a
cheap facsimile of
a diamond?
Your ring? You mean like
a lesser quality diamond, or not even a diamond at all?
You keep your cubic zirconium where it belongs.
Yeah, it just makes you wonder if they using these parts does not put your car back to pre-loss condition.
Yeah.
Which should be part of your policy. It should say that. I'm not sure. To me, I feel like they might have changed the language, or
Well, here's the time to
a
bang
couple
that.
of words
Yeah,
change a lot of things.
let's bang that drum right now. Get out your policy. Find your policy. If you can't find it, order it again. Call up your agent and say, I would like the full written documentation of everything I'm paying for. And when they send it to you, read it.
Yeah.
Look for the terms. Does it say that it has to be brought back to pre-loss condition? Again, it's that phrase was
It's an important one.
well. Let me just throw this in for your consideration. That phrase, pre-loss condition, was the fulcrum of a court case that landed State Farm $1.18 billion in judgment against them. Now, that was later overturned, and then, of course, the case that we brought up a little bit earlier was the aftermath of that, as it appeared that a judge was influenced to move into the Supreme Court and vote in State Farm's favor. Appears. We're reporting the news. All the files will be here below so that you can check it out for yourself. But shenanigans. There's no doubt about it.
Lots of them.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's what I have for today. I hope you found it helpful.
Wow.
Please, if you've had your car repaired or it's in for repairs, get a copy of the estimate, review the estimate yourself. If you have questions, call the shop, call me, call somebody, and get some clarification. And be aware of how your vehicle is being repaired. Trust is important, but it's trust and verify.
Yes.
So that's what I have for you today.
It's good stuff. Thank you so much for taking your time. I appreciate you. Happy Saturday.
Happy Saturday to you, my dear friends. Thanks for tuning in again. I appreciate the time that we get to spend together, and I just thank you so very, very much. Have an amazing week, and I'll see you next Saturday. God bless.